Someone has to be the most expensive. Why not you? Can you tell us about a case study, perhaps a dentist, but maybe it's another one, of someone who's kind of the before and the after, which is something dentists are very good at, by the way.
Yeah, sure. Let me use an example that's probably closer to my heart, the service-based industry. So I moved to Cairns, a commercial diver, obviously, by trade. I worked for a Japanese company for a few years. I got decompression sickness when I was putting pontoons out on the reef, and I transitioned into a sales and marketing role with them for about 5 years. When I left that job, I started my own marketing company. And for me, what I had done, I bit of poverty mentality. It snuck back into my little world. It was a new business, hadn't been in business for a few years. And I started a marketing company that was really set up around helping small businesses. And I set it up in an industrial area. I had lots and lots of clients, but they were all, they couldn't afford a marketing company. They were all the cheap end of town. And I was really, really busy making no money. You know, that was really the thing. A bit of a turning point for me was I did write a book called 101 Ways to Market Your Business way, way back then. And I wrote that as a time management tool simply because I was seeing all these customers that were never going to pay. And this was a spiraling down. And I thought, if I can give them a book, it'll work. And anyway, that happened. But I realized that was all happening, and it was like, go, go, go. And then I had a terrible situation where I was working crazy hours, and it wasn't, you know, I wasn't getting where I wanted to go. Wrong kind of clients, all the rest of it. And my sister very sadly died quite suddenly of a heart attack at the age of 35, which is quite unheard of. And it really shook me. And I was not particularly healthy at the time. And, you know, like I could see that my own life was going to end up in the same, you know, workaholic, you know, never exercising, just stress, not making any money. And I decided something had to change. And that's when I made the decision that okay, for starters, what I needed to do was, you know, I'm charging $100 an hour. I need to be charging $300 an hour because I'm good at what I do. I'm great at what I do. But I realized that if I just put my prices up to $300 an hour in my existing business, you know, like I'd lose all my customers, but I've still got the same message in the marketplace. So it didn't, you know, nothing really changes except I've tripled my prices and I'm probably going to end up just going broke. So what I did, I made a very conscious move and I decided I needed to change my location because I was in the wrong location. So I changed my business name to one that was more appropriate. I moved my office into a high-rise building that was filled with lawyers, accountants, dentists, you know, banks, you know, all these other people that are perfect, high engineers, architects. I was in the basement. I spent a lot of money fitting out this office, changed the name. Everyone started wearing suits and ties like the people around us. And we put our rates up to $300, then $400, then $500, you know, an hour even in our rate, which is, again, this is a long time ago. And the business really boomed. And the whole reason, now, I'm not saying you've got to close your practice and change the name and move, but what I am saying is you can't just put lipstick on a wombat, is a line that I use in the book. And that just means just if you just kind of, you can't just triple your prices and not change anything else. Because, you know, like odds on you need to make some fairly dramatic changes in the business. And I had that with my dive shop as well, you know, where it wasn't making money. It was a dismal failure, and I literally transformed it by shutting it down and starting again, you know, right through to changing the name and changing the business and total refit and changing the gear and getting rid of dive instructors that refuse to wear, you know, a shirt and trousers and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So what I'm saying here is to make the transition, what you need to realize that things have got to change within your business so that you can tell a better story about what it is you do. In my book, I have rules that you've got to follow to do this. I've got 12 rules, and then I have a process, a 12-step process, 10-step process rather, which is step one, come up with a plan. Like, why do you want to do this? Why do you really want to change it? You know, step two, create a figure. Step two is actually develop the plan about transforming. Step 3, you got to get everyone on board. You're like, if you've got a very resistant receptionist who goes, I don't like change, I don't like this, he or she needs to be brought on board. Otherwise, they're going to bring the whole ship undone. You got to work out how you're going to get there. How are you going to be the best? What does that really mean? And this is a conversation around, if we're going to be the best and we're going to really start to change what we're worth, how the hell are we going to do that? What does it really define? What does that mean to be the best? What does it mean to each of us? How do we define that? And that's being the best with all the different bits and pieces. So then do something big and bold. Maybe change the name of your practice. Maybe it's a refurb. Maybe it's a refit. Maybe it's move. Maybe it is because you're in the wrong place and you're going, what if we set up practice in the wrong place? Maybe. I don't know. Depends on who you are. Number 6, tell a bigger, bolder story. Tell this new story. Number 7, get creative on your pricing. We live in a world that's more receptive to creative pricing, even if it's more. Subscription stuff, things like that. Create extraordinary experiences. Be prepared to let go of old clients, because this is people start panicking, Angus, when they go, oh my God, I put up my prices, moved, and I'm losing my old clients. Well, you got to lose them to make room for the new ones.
Yeah.
And that's when most people panic. And because then the last one is stay true to course. This process and this model works, but it's not for the faint of heart.
So if people, we've convinced them at the start of this interview that they want to do this, they can see what all the benefits are, they're happy to go through the process. Apart from just not following the process, what are the potential stumbling blocks for people, when they're wanting to implement this and then, for whatever reason, things are just not working?
Well, it's a great question, and it comes back to that point again where I made before there about there's people can either just stay where they are because they're comfortable with that, or increase their prices, or the third tier is aimed to really be that most expensive. So somewhere along the path, and that's where people might want to, you can do elements of this and at least put up your rates. But what I see is what brings it unstuck is hanging on to limiting beliefs. And the limiting beliefs are the things like people can't afford to pay this.
No one will pay.
No one. There's no one will pay this. You're so right. There's no one thing. I can't do this because every other dental practice. My thing with the dive shop was I had to run it like every other dive shop. Fishnet, plastic crabs had to be on the wall. Your dive courses had to be $295 for a dive course. They're still $295 35 years later.
Goodness.
Now tell me that works, right? Yeah. Like when you look at that. So that limiting belief factor is that, and that's why you're so right. This is a book about mindset where I talk a lot about that. Resistance with team is certainly a thing. That's why you've got to get your team on board. They've got to go, well, we're making all these changes. What's in it for me? Yeah. And that's an important thing, because what is in it for them? What's in it for them is a lot. Number one is it's a more stable business. So their job's more secure. You tend to deal with a nicer caliber of people. Yeah. I think is generally that part who appreciate you and what you do. You attract a different type of customer. There's a confidence in a business that is built on substance. There's less panic and less urgency with stuff. There's a wonderful sense of satisfaction in knowing that you work for a great business. When other people go, oh, you work for them. Oh, wow. Okay. Like we all know what that's like. When someone says to us, oh, I work there and it's a bit dodgy, it's like, no, okay. As opposed to, oh, I work there, and we go, wow, they're great. Like there's a big difference between those two things. So, and that's in a world where it's very important for people to see names of quality businesses on a CV, that becomes more important. So you've got to bring your team on board. That's another part of it as well. And then for me, really the last part is that the panic that can come from going, okay, to make this transition, we have to lose things. And we have to lose customers that no longer service, or patients that no longer service, or staff members that no longer service, or premises that no longer service, or whatever, partners sometimes that no longer service. I've worked with many businesses where, old partner, young partner sometimes doesn't work.
Well, look, of course, I've sat here and interviewed you, but the truth is I really love this book, and I'm a person that reads a lot. I think I'm right in saying this is the 50th book that I've read this year. I've read a book a week for the last 3 years, and I absolutely love this, partly because I think the premise is, you're right on the money, and that's great. But the second thing is, this is a highly practical, implementable book. It's not just a sort of whole bunch of philosophy and good on you, and, you know, this is actually stuff you can implement. And of course, the viewers are deeply ingratiated to you that all of your examples about those touch points related to a dental practice. So that's something that they can implement straight away. So really, one final question, Andrew, where do these people get hold of your book?
Very, very easy. Thank you very much, Angus. And I've got to say, that's a very glowing kind of bit of feedback, which is I really appreciate from someone who reads so many books. And that's clearly why you're so successful and what you do too.
You know, I just call it as I see it, but I loved it. I mean, I told you, I would say I read the first half of the book within about 2 days.
Yeah,
I found it very compelling reading.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Amazon, Booktopia. I encourage people, if you're in Australia, Booktopia, support Australian company on that, but it's available from Amazon. It's on Kindle. Audiobook's not available just yet, but it's on its way. Or you can buy it from my website as well. I've got the hardcover version that you've got there, Angus, I have on my website. That's a limited edition one. But again, come to my website, andrewgriffiths.com.au. You can go to all the other stores. If you have a local bookstore, they can order it in as well. So it's very easy to get a hold of.
Good stuff. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Someone has to be the most expensive. Why not make it you? Thanks so much, Andrew.
Thank you, Angus. Really nice chatting to you too. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.